Welcome back. Last week, the Federal Reserve lowered the interest rate by a quarter point. Does this mean it's time to maybe buy or sell a home? Here to give us an update on the housing market in San Diego is Heather Myers from Snyder Real Estate Group. Heather, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, Kasha, thank you so much for having me back.
I feel like this is a topic that never gets old here in San Diego. People are always wondering, is it time to finally maybe jump in and buy, or is it the right time to sell? So how does this recent kind of federal interest rate cut affect things?
Well, such a great question, because I think there's a little bit of a misconception that when the Federal Reserve lowered the benchmark interest rate, that meant that all of a sudden mortgage rates were much, much cheaper. But truthfully, leading up to them making that announcement last Thursday, the mortgage rates were dropping ever so slightly. No major drops yet, but now we are about 6.3%, where in January we were well over 7% for mortgage rates. So as we saw the Fed make that announcement on Thursday, actually the opposite happened. Thursday and Friday, the mortgage rates ticked up ever so slightly, but they're right about 6.3% now. Compared to January, this could save you hundreds of dollars per month on a mortgage payment.
Isn't that interesting? You said they actually ticked up a bit after this announcement. Why do you think that is sometimes, that they're not as tied together as people think or hope they are?
So they're actually following the 10-year Treasury. And not only did the Fed make that announcement that they were going to be lowering the benchmark interest rate by 0.25%, but they also gave sort of a doom and gloom look looking ahead economically. And when it comes to mortgage rates and that 10-year Treasury specifically, it didn't exactly like some of the additional news that was mentioned during that announcement, and therefore the mortgage rates ticked up a bit. Now, if best case scenario happens, and of course we start to see economic news maybe move more in the direction that we're hoping it does, and we see some other signs in there, including the Fed potentially lowering the interest rate again during the next meeting in October, we could see those mortgage rates tick down a little bit more.
Okay, well, we are certainly all hoping for the best case scenario, but let's also talk maybe worst case scenario, how this could go the other direction, and maybe why now might be the time to jump in maybe before that happens.
So this is such an individual decision, and what I tell people is meet with a couple of lenders immediately, and they're going to ask for a lot of paperwork up front. They want to see your pay stubs, they want to know how much money you have for a down payment. Once you're able to give them all that information, they're going to be able to tell you exactly what you can afford per month and the exact price of a home that you should be shopping for. So for some people, now might be a great time. This slight lowering of the mortgage rates might be the perfect time for you to jump in and start to shop for a home. For other people, they may not be lower quite yet. Worst case scenario, which was what you were asking, that there's some unforeseen economic news that comes up on the horizon, or we start to see the inflation rate climb back up, then we may not see the mortgage rates drop down any further.
Okay, and then let's talk about just what you're seeing so far after this announcement. You know, people might think, okay, are people rushing out to buy homes? But what has September looked like so far?
People are waking up. They're starting to see the announcement of rates lowering. And in fact, mortgage applications, people that are running out to see if they can get an application for a mortgage, fill that out, and perhaps be accepted for a loan, those are actually up 30% week over week leading up to the Fed announcement, because again, that's when we saw the mortgage rates drop down. We're also seeing refinance applications jump up too. So there's a couple of things to be looking out for right now. If you are in the market to potentially buy, I would definitely suggest meeting with a lender and having all of your numbers run.
At least getting the ball rolling, right? And knowing where you stand. All right, I'm sure there's so much more to come, especially with that next meeting happening in October and seeing where the real estate market goes from here. So I'm sure this won't be the last time we check in with you, Heather. Thanks so much for being here this evening. We appreciate it.
I'll be here anytime you need me. No
problem.
All right,
sounds good.